to carry on our conversation about rocking your pitch, I'd like to bring up Tucker Stine. Now, Tucker Stine is just, I know Tucker, so I know that the bio I'm going to give on him is accurate. So here's what he is. He's the founder and CEO of Tucker Stine Brand Architects, but not just that. He's an amazing storyteller, and he's helped over 200 people get on 150 stages around the globe, including YouTube, TEDx, Today Show. You've been on all these different forums yourself, but you've helped these clients to understand really how to speak to their brand and to bring their full self onto the stage. So I can't wait for you to show all of our audience really some tips and tools about how to rock their pitch. Tucker, dive deep, because I know you will. And you can feel free to call me on stage if you need me.
All right. Thank you, Patty. Let's go ahead and take the slide down for now at the moment. Patty, we're still working on your Patty D action figure prototype, so we'll have that ready for next year. Your energy is just contagious, so thank you. So great to be back. It feels like family that I get to sit in front of you today. I do want to start with a quick story. 3 years ago, I had spent my 250th hour in prison working with 100 inmates telling their story and rocking their pitches on the stage for the first time ever. And the last inmate got up on the stage and he looked at the crowd and said, when you enter prison, they strip you of everything and fill you with nothing. What are you going to fill yourself up with today? I have not forgotten that. I haven't forgotten that question. I think about it all the time. So I want you to think about that today. Take the next 20 minutes for yourself. Just take a deep breath and invest in yourself just for a few minutes. I want to play off of what Pat just said. We've all failed, but this is a chance to look at failure as part of our story. I want to start real quick before we get into to doing this stuff. And by the way, please have a piece of paper handy and a pen so that when we get there, you're not scrambling for it. I want to start part of the storytelling here with some numbers. I'm a huge fan of Mental Health America. Every year they put out a report specifically on the state of the workplace. I want to share some numbers from last year that are absolutely, I think, alarming. 65% of Americans last year started looking for a new job. 81%, so they had an abnormal amount of stress already built in to their career. And here's where it gets interesting. Only 20% of people find passion and purpose in what they do. And 84% of individuals are starving for human connection. They feel like they've lost it. So when you think of that, those numbers, it's not about the 65% that are looking for a new job that really baffled me. It was that over 80% lack passion, purpose, and human connection, which is exactly why I want to talk about today the power of story, because stories specifically focus on the ability to create human connection, and they have the ability to connect you to purpose. And I want you to be able today to focus on passion and purpose in your leadership and in your lives. 3 things that humans crave most. This is some of the research that came out of it. See if you can guess them. But connection, sense of belonging, and safety. Those are the 3 things that humans are craving most these days. And what I love about the fact that storytelling, I've made it my life to create storytelling as my business model, is that stories have the ability to transcend all that. Stories end up becoming a universal language, and they build trust. They build vulnerability and trusted relationships, and they create a relatability unlike anything else that we can do in business. So today we're going to learn about how you can build that foundation for your own story, how you show up differently for others, for your team, for yourself, and putting a framework together of what that pitch is going to look like so that every single time somebody asks you, what do you do? What do you stand for? You know exactly what that statement looks like. So I also like to say that stories transcend any role or any position that you have in an organization. So if you're in sales, marketing, R&D, engineering, whatever you are in, the universal language of storytelling transcends all of that. And oftentimes you're going to see that The company mission becomes the story that unites all of those roles in those positions. But I want to focus on one other thing here. Product and company don't necessarily equate to customer acquisition and long-term growth. I will argue that human connection and people buying into people is the most critical element of a business model that you can have. My mentor told me years ago, humans buy on emotion and justify with logic. I have never, ever not seen that happen. So part of today specifically is tapping into that emotional connection that you can make with other people. Anyone can sell product, place, promotion, price, all of that, the P's, right? No one can sell you, only you can sell you. So remember that. Don't let others develop the narrative for you. That narrative is for yourself. Okay? So I want you to walk away, like I said before today, feeling more confident, more clear, more connected, specifically to what you do today, so that you have the ability to increase your network, grow your business, accelerate your trajectory of your own career simply by being yourself, owning what you do, what you give to the world. What does that servant leadership look like? And then ultimately being able to use that as an opportunity to expand your network. So this is not about growth from the company. This is about growth from you. So I want you to think about that. And this is about tapping into your own natural born gifts. So let's get started on a little exercise. So like I said, let's get that piece of paper out. If we could put up that first slide, would be great. All right. I want you to make 4 boxes on that piece of paper, 4 quadrants. And in that upper left-hand corner, you're going to write core audience. My core audience looks like, right? And you're going to identify 3 individuals, teams, customers, clients, whatever they are. You're going to identify what they are. It may just be one person. It may be one organization. It may be one team. For me, I specifically work with entrepreneurs and conscious leaders. So that would be my quadrant up there. Okay. Secondly, to the right of that, you're going to write down several pain points that audience specifically is challenged with. And the pain points are critical. And we'll get to that in a moment. The pain points could be, lack of customer conversion. It could be time to market. It could be lack of connection, right? For a lot of us leaders, there's a tendency to feel disconnected. So maybe there's a lack of connection. So think about what those pain points are for that audience. The next thing in that bottom left corner, I would like you to write specifically, my solutions or gifts include. I use that pronoun very, very specifically. It's not the company's solutions. It's not the team's solutions. It's not anybody else's solutions but yours. How do you show up every single day, and what are you doing to serve your audience that makes you own those gifts? This isn't bragging. This is tapping into specifically what it is you feel your core strengths are on a day-to-day basis and how you deliver them. All right, the fourth and final quadrant, that bottom right. Their core benefits or outcomes are. Okay, not your core benefits or outcome. Go back up to that upper left. What does your audience get? What is the benefit? What is the what I often refer to as the collateral beauty of what you deliver on a day-to-day basis? And I want you to take a moment and think about those 4 things. You're not going to solve it today, but what I'm doing is giving you the framework, right? I will tell you, I went through this exercise at the age of 40. If you heard my talk 2 years ago when we were still live back in Seattle, I talked about not my midlife crisis, but my midlife awakening. And I highly recommend you go through a midlife awakening or an awakening at some point that allows you to go through this process of understanding what these 4 things are. We're going to get to how we link and integrate all of these in just a second. This specifically too is not just for yourself. You can also attach this same framework if you lead a team, or if you're a team member, if you're a director, manager, whatever it is, or if you're an entrepreneur, do it for your own business. But today we're going to focus solely on you. Okay. So I'm going to give you 1 or 2 more minutes to think about that just a little bit more. And again, remember that the pain points are specifically for your audience, not your pain points. We don't want to go through all of your pain points. We're not going to air all of your pain points. The pain points are the audience that you have. Okay. Now that we have some of that written down, let's go to the next slide. I want you to be able to develop one statement, right? One sentence that clearly defines who you are, what you do, and what you stand for. And the reason I love going through this process is I spent 20 years in corporate, and I always identified myself either by my role or by the expectations of others. Authentic leadership comes from understanding who you are and setting your own personal boundaries for what you desire to see. So for me, for 20 years, I couldn't even answer or create a statement that had anything to do about me. It was always about either the customer or the product or the company. It was never anything to do about me. And I struggled with that. It's a hard thing to go through your corporate life feeling completely lost. And just like we saw in the research, if only 20% of people are finding passion and purpose in what they do, they're clearly missing out on an opportunity to accelerate the rest of their life. Now, I figured it out at 40. So I'm what am I, 47 now. So this is new to me. This is only 7 years old, but there's never, ever a bad time to go through this process. I promise you. And remind yourself and be kind to yourself and gracious to yourself that this isn't going to get written right away. And you're probably going to change it 10 or 15 times, maybe even more, before you feel like it's public. And that's okay. And Ferranda will put my LinkedIn in here. If you want to DM me your statement specifically, we can go through it. So here's my example. And I just want you to be able to look at this and think about it. I color coded it so that you can see the different elements of the statement. So I help. Now that help can be work, collaborate, whatever verb that you choose. Entrepreneurs and conscious leaders, as I said before, that's my audience. Turn their stories into purpose-driven businesses. Their biggest problems are they have no clarity, they lack some purpose, they're lacking connection with their audiences, or in their own personal life, their business, their entrepreneurial life, they're struggling to understand customers so they can accelerate human impact. That's what they get working with me. So now it's tying together solution-based thinking, addressing the pain points, and putting together a what I like to call an impact component to the brand statement. So think about using this for yourself. You're going to start to see it, if you haven't already, starting to see it show up in LinkedIn, right? This is an opportunity to look at your social platforms very, very differently. And I charge you to go through an audit wherever you have a public-facing opportunity to market yourself. Make sure this statement appears. You know, when LinkedIn first came out years and years ago, you know, everyone called it, oh yeah, it's the digital resume. And if you look at some of those LinkedIn profiles, it takes 5 paragraphs for anyone to understand what you do. And sometimes you don't even understand what that is. If you can create one clear statement right off the bat, people are going to get you. And it doesn't have to be written for the job that you have. Write it for the job that you want, or the leader that you want to become, or the leader that you already are. And allow that to be your lead in. That's rocking your pitch to everybody else right away in 1 sentence or less. And like I said, this was game changing for me, because for years and years and years, I was all over the place, lacking the clarity of what this all meant. All right, so let's go to the next slide. And I want to show you a framework, what I call the anatomy of the story or the story arc. If beyond the one sentence statement, you have an opportunity to tell your story, here are 5 steps, an architecture that I swear I use for all of my TEDx clients, all of my keynote speakers. It never, ever fails to flow and connect with your audience. So test it out. Step 1, that's your opening, your moment of engagement, right? Start with a story. Don't start with who you are, what I do, role, title, years of experience. At that point, nobody cares. They want to know who you are. Again, buying on emotion and justifying with logic later. Start with a story. Get them connected. 2, state the problem. Understand the pain points. We live in a society where we don't want to talk about pain because pain is evil. Well, guess what? In a brand story, pain, or as we just heard, failure potentially, becomes the root and the fuel for the solution. So don't be afraid to address the problem and the pain points right away. Then go into the solution. Because if you start with the solution and you're so anxious to talk about the solution, you're missing a really big critical connection with your clients or customers because they don't see that you are on the same page. Be and meet them where they are at. Use the universal language of storytelling to connect with them. Step 4, impact. What does success look like? If they connect with you, work with you, whatever that looks like, or the company, what does that impact look like? This is, measuring success. It could be a number. It could be a revenue number. It could be the number of lives impacted. Whatever that looks like, this is a measurement of success and what does impact look like and defined as. And then finally, the closing. Invite them. Instead of closing them, invite them. It's a completely different language and a completely different way in which you talk to people. They smell sales language a mile away. Invite them to be a part of what you're up to. Invite them to be a part of a movement. Everyone likes to be a part of something that's moving forward. So use as an opportunity to invite them into the story, not own your story, bring them into the story. They become characters. They're part of their line. Allow them to be a part of it. Okay. So with that, if we could take this slide down real quick. I hope this is all helpful. If there's anything specific that you want, put it in the chat and we can address that. Again, I don't want you, thinking that this 15 to 20 minutes is going to define everything, right? You're going to take some time to do this. So why is this so important for that, to do that statement? 4 C's. And Sarah just putting crystallizing and clarifying. You're gonna laugh at this, Sarah. I created the 4 C's doing this because it actually transformed my life. The first C, clarity, right? Clarity brings more purpose, brings more direction, brings more growth, brings the right people, all of this. Clarity, clarity, clarity. The second, confidence, right? 7 years ago, you would not have recognized me. I would not be sitting here with you because I was deep in fear and no confidence that what I had to offer to the world, nobody wanted. We all suffer from a lot of that imposter syndrome. So confidence is key, right? When you speak, and this becomes your affirmation. I say it every single morning. I get up and say it. This is what I'm going to do. The third C, community, right? When you are clearly communicating what you do with confidence, you end up building your own community without even realizing it. People are drawn to the way you act, the way you talk, the way you connect through your story. It had nothing to do with where you worked, how long you've been in business, what your title is. In fact, I even challenge people when they go to a cocktail party. Don't ask people, what do they do? Ask people what lights them up every single morning when they would get out of bed. It'll change your whole cocktail conversation, right? The fourth C, collaboration. This allows you to identify the right partners that are trusted, and it allows you to collaborate with the people that come together with common solutions that are in values alignment. And that was a struggle I had for a long time. Values alignment was really difficult. It was challenging. This helps you create a values alignment. Okay. Now, the next thing, here's one thing I'd like you to do is number from 1 to 3. Okay. And at the top of the 1, 2, 3, personal board of directors. Changed my life. This was all part of the same process. What do I mean by that? Identify 3 people in your life that you trust, that know you, that know all of you, that you can connect with quarterly, regularly, whatever that looks like. I have 3 people, and I highly suggest it not be someone at work, right? A mentor, a friend, and a client. Client's important because a client truly sees the value you bring to the table. And I meet with them quarterly, individually. They become my personal sounding board. It's way better than a spouse, believe me, especially after 21 years of marriage, right? These become your confidants. It is so important for you to think about who is on your side, who is on your team that is going to lift you up every single time you fall. They are going to be there. This is really, really important. And yes, Catherine, we will share the slide deck. Okay, so those personal board of directors. Put in the chat a yes if you have a personal board of directors, or no if you don't. I'm just curious. This is something that completely changed my outlook on everything. 2 or 3, great. Nope. Yes. Awesome. Excellent. Like to be more intentional. Absolutely. Real quick, the 3 again, it's 3 individuals, a mentor, a friend, and a client. Try to avoid someone who is a superior or someone that's in the organization with you. 1, it can be transient, and 2, there may be a bias there. So you need to be careful of that. So let's move on. We only have a few minutes left. I want to bring in one thing that Women in Cloud has been so dedicated to, which is the UN sustainability goals. And I want to bring in DEI here, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want you to think about how you connect directly with your team, your clients, your customers. I believe that real DEI leadership starts with human connection, not protocol. If we create protocol for DEI in organizations and we're not connecting with the people, we're going to have some real problems. And I've seen it happen right away, right? Now, when we incorporate DEI from a human connection perspective, elevate storytelling. I would invite all of if you're in a team, have everyone go through that personal brand statement, go around the table and have everyone read it. Because what that ends up doing is we get to honor and celebrate differences, which is amazing. Second, we get to identify zones of genius that we may not even know have been there. When I do workshops for companies and teams, they didn't even realize certain things about their own team members, and it completely changed the dialogue. Totally changed the workplace culture. It enables others to be seen and heard. And ultimately, when we build more personal brand equity, we're actually allowing for more developmental change, organizational change, and naturally, DEI is built into your DNA, and you probably didn't even realize it. But we're relying on protocol and processes to define it. Start using personal branding, storytelling, and this personal development to help create more DEI experiences, opportunities within your organization. So in conclusion, we've only got about a minute left. I want you to be able to ask yourself 3 questions. So you've got your homework, you've got my information. 3 questions. Beyond my title, what do I stand for? What is that statement that I can use that I show up every single day? Secondly, what action can I take right away to build on my 4 C's? What's the action around clarity, confidence, community, and collaboration. Work with your personal board of directors. Discover an action plan around those 4 things. And finally, how are you going to show up differently for yourself and for others? Right? My big thing is how you show up for yourself is how you show up for everyone. And I want you to get that out of today, is to really dive deep, focusing on yourself and what that unique zone of genius, that brand identity is for yourself. And that's why your story matters. That is why your story matters. It affects the way you lead yourself, your team, your organization, your community, all of that. If you want any more information, feel free to drop me a direct message in LinkedIn. I can also share some recommended podcasts and some other materials later on. But I hope this was helpful today. I hope you all took the last 20 minutes and 25 minutes invested in yourself, and know that this is something that we're all doing together, and it will create transformational workplace cultural changes. Thank you for having me.
Wow, Tucker, that was so good. And you can see the comments in the chat are just like mic drop, mic drop, mic drop, because all of that, was especially, I love that D&I is part of your DNA. It really is. And so you need to just tap into it and step into it. And when you step into who you are, then you become less afraid of other people in the world.
You got it.
Yeah. So, and your story matters. It's so true. Well, it was a pleasure to have you here. And
It's good to see you, Patty.
closing up that rock your pitch. I love it. So thank you so much, Tucker.
Absolutely.
I hope the rest of your time at Women in Cloud is really productive. Get out there and answer some of the questions that people have for you. They had a ton of them. So get out there and answer them.